Start the show, so if you wouldn't mind being silent, we're going to go live to the jurors who are tuning in virtually. It's a little bit weird meeting like this, but we'll get introduced properly in just a little bit. I'll give you my autograph later. Okay. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Ajyal. Welcome to the Ajyal Film Festival, and welcome to Ajyal Talks. My name is Kareem with the Doha Film Institute. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today and introduce you guys to the Gamechangers. Today we're going to be doing a talk called Meet the Gamechanger, which is Meet the Gamechangers, which is a moderated discussion with three of the pioneer innovators and entrepreneurs that are changing the landscape and transforming the way business is done in Qatar. So we're really happy to hear their stories, hear more about their businesses, and hear from them why they think it's important for young people such as yourselves to develop and learn and instill the skills that are brought through entrepreneurship. So guys, please help me in joining our panel today, starting with Juju Al Fardan, who is... Thank you so much. Juju is the co-creator of OX Fitness, of Green and Go, Evergreen. She's also a homie, so I'm really happy to have her here with us today. That's your mic over there. And please, guys, could you give it up for Kareem Merjan, who is the country manager of Qatar Workington, Qatar. So Karim and I just met a couple of months ago, but he has a very similar name to mine, so I feel like we have like this unspoken connection, which is amazing. And then last but not least, we have Sheikh Abdullah Al Thani, who is the founder of Rawson Sports. So please welcome him to the stage. All right, please have a seat, guys. And just so you guys know, we have the lovely jurors sitting here who are age 11 to 25. And we have some jurors, actually a lot of jurors, who are tuning in from all across the world. And you could see them there on the monitors here. And they're tuned in from all across the world. So they'll be listening to our discussion. They'll also have some amazing questions for us when we get to the Q&A portion. So to give some context to the people that are sitting here, to the people that are tuning in online, we'd like to play a short little clip to show them who you guys are and what you guys do.
We always say that it's about the niyyah. We can reach a higher level of ourselves.
Nia, yoga, or Ride Tribe?
Nia is my first child, so she will always have a special place, but Ride Tribe is my baby. Offering different spaces to offer an alternative lifestyle, to encourage them to get stronger, fitter, healthier, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of it.
That's right, if you come down to the Workington co-working space area, there's a whole bunch of startups that are based here in this co-working environment.
Workington is providing an ideal working space.
It is a good social environment, gets you connected with a lot of like-minded people for business purposes and also for lifestyle.
right, give it up for the Gamechangers, guys.
Wow, I love that. I don't know where you found all those videos, but great job putting it together. Thank you.
It took some work.
Can I
think
get a
someone,
copy?
at least a few people would be very happy to hear that. Yeah, we'll get you a copy.
Thanks.
So, being that we have a lot of young people in the audience here and tuned in virtually, I want to know from each of you guys, actually, what was your first experience with entrepreneurship, with a business perhaps, and the younger, the better. That you get more points for the younger you go. So, Juju, I want to start with you.
I started off, I was about 24 years old. Is that what you mean when we started?
I mean, if
Younger, the
if you
better.
have something when you were like in grade school, I'd love to hear that one too.
I did actually. I was even younger than that. I think it was kindergarten where I'd have people, queue up for me to paint their faces. Not the same thing, but then it evolved into moisturizing, so health was always there in the picture somewhere. But no, I was about 24 years old, so fair age. And I moved back to Qatar, and I really wanted to create the kind of lifestyle that I had living outside of here. In Doha, because I really wanted to live here and be here with family and with people I love, and in this country I really do love being here. The weather is great, the people are great, so there was just this lifestyle element that was missing for me, and that's when Evergreen and Nia Yoga started. As I referred to them in the video, my babies, but really my first businesses. And Evergreen Organics is the first plant-based vegan cafe in the country. And it's grown so much since then. And Nia Yoga was the first kind of dedicated yoga space in the country. So that was the start. It evolved so much since then, and I guess we'll talk about that more.
Definitely.
But I wanted to pass it on to my amazing entrepreneur colleagues over here.
How much were you charging for the face painting, by the way?
It was, I think, friendship.
Oh, friendship.
Yeah.
Good deal.
So, service-based.
Should I? Yeah. My first experience was not a successful one. I think we'll talk about the term curiosity a little later, but in general, it was either like 6, 7, 8 years old. It was right after I learned how to read and write. And we had this library section. I was a librarian as my first entrepreneurship experience. It was this small library in our house. And when my parents, back then actually, my mom used to work for Apple. And it was probably mid-late 90s where we had those iMacs, the blue, the red transparent ones. So we had always one of them in that library. It's like this small room. And whenever my parents' friends were coming over for a dinner, we were actually, so I had this idea. I was reading, I was always curious, and I was always trying to read from these library material. There were a lot of books, encyclopedias, obviously the internet and the search engines weren't as developed, so that was your go-to place when you were curious about something. And from my parents' diaries to journals, everything was basically there. So it was my playground. And one day I'm like, my parents are hosting a lot of friends over, so let me start a library and borrow these books to my parents' friends. And so that's what I did. It took me, so when my father's friend coming over, I want to borrow this book from you. It took me probably like 5 minutes to enter the name of the book to the keyboard. It was a very primitive way of starting, trying something, but it was a lot of fun. And I was trying to make a bit of money from borrowing the books of my parents to my parents' friends through the computer that was provided to me by my parents. So it was a failed attempt, but a really fun one, for sure.
I respect the hustle. I have to give it up for you. You were like the first Amazon in a way. Before technology was there.
No, I mean, yeah, not really, but it was a lot of fun experience, for sure.
Sheikh Abdallah?
Yeah, so entrepreneurship is finding the solution to a problem and creating a business from that. And one problem that we had in our childhood is when we had family gatherings every week, as many Qatari families. Back then, there wasn't talabat or any delivery companies that would deliver to us. So, and there wasn't any closed supermarkets. So I would buy candy at wholesale prices in Suq Waqf, and would set up my own table on the corner of the garden, and will wait for my cousins and all the other kids to come in after sunset and start my sales. So this was, I solved the solution, I solved the problem here, and also made money on the side. The other, the other business that I had was collect the unwanted coins in the house. So usually coins were thrown away, they didn't change, so no one would use these coins. So I would collect them and keep them with me. Yeah.
Also respect the hustle, by the way.
I guess he wins that one. You know, full on business.
No, Juju and I didn't solve a problem.
I think people really needed to moisturize. Okay.
Yeah.
So Sheikh Abdullah, you mentioned it briefly. You touched on it. I want to bring it back. What does entrepreneurship mean for you?
So entrepreneurship is starting off as finding a gap in the market. That's not for the first thing, and then finding the problem and finding the solution to that problem.
What does that mean, a gap in the market?
For example, if there's no one supplying this demand, so that would be the gap. Or even you can create your own market. So, for example, if like one product that I sell, for example, is stand-up paddle boards. If there isn't a community for stand-up paddle boards, I would start that community and then create that ecosystem that they will come back and buy these products. So I'm creating the market here, and it will grow and help also other businesses grow in the same field. And I've seen that in my journey. Other shops pop up after what we did, and they also come back to us for advice. I don't see them as competitors. I do see it as a success that we've reached.
That's great. I think each of you guys actually have innovative companies in a way that there was no market before you guys established them, and then you
Correct.
created that market. So Karim, can you tell me a little bit about what Workington does and how it
Yeah,
relates to what I was
absolutely.
talking about?
Well, yeah, I think Sheikh tapped into the very straightforward point about it. These things should be defined a bit clearly. In general, innovation, in some sense, could be subjective, but it actually is derived by this Latin word called innovare, where it stands for renew. So sometimes I see some misconception around this term, where they say, we're going to invent something and so forth. Innovation is improving a process, improving a product with the existing material out in the market through a bit of a disruptive approach, a bit through thinking outside the box and its common use. And I think Sheikh also said that if there is no market, let's create that. That is an innovation, in my own humble opinion. And with Workington, this was a very similar case. When we first established 3 years back, there was no co-working spaces.
Can you explain what a co-working space is?
Absolutely. A co-working space is a space from usually from 1,000 square meters above. Usually the bigger is better, and we can talk about the reasons why, but it's a fitted out, ready space with a lot of offices around, small to big, with common areas around, with a lot of desks, with lounge areas, couches, libraries, game rooms, whatever you call, studios if you want, with meeting rooms and so forth. So it is a platform where a lot of different businesses can use different facilities from. They can have their own dedicated offices, they can just use the common areas or any facility that exists in this premises. But what makes this different than a business center is basically the purpose behind is the cause of why we're doing it. Co-working spaces is basically where people collaborate, people work together, although they present different types of companies, they do different types of works. That is why we call co-working space. And we do believe innovation can only be possible through collaboration, through the community-centric approach. And that's what we tried to establish. And we had some challenges here and there because, like Sheikh pointed out, there was not a lot of understanding of this concept when we first came. Time to time, we had to change our story to explain, to educate the market of what we try to create, and to create that ecosystem, to bring the community together, I think was key to explain ourselves, who we are and why we exist. And with time, we progressed with this mentality.
And Juju, in terms of innovative spaces, obviously you've created or co-created a lot of businesses that have tapped into that. Can you, because I'm a selfish person and I'm running the show kind of here right now, I'd like to ask you, in terms of setting up Ride Tribe, for example, right? Can you tell us about the challenges of bringing a concept like that to Qatar, which when you first introduced it, it didn't have anything like that at all? Can you tell us a little bit about what Ride Tribe is and then your challenges bringing it to Qatar?
Okay, so Ride Tribe is a indoor cycling experience that is a group fitness class, but goes beyond that. Because it's a stationary bike, I was just speaking outside with Sheikh Abdullah, who was saying that he doesn't like training on things that don't go anywhere, and I completely understand that. People will say that to me all the time, but you're not going anywhere. And really, you might not be moving anywhere physically, but this stationary bike very, very much is a vehicle to go on a journey within. And that's what Ride Tribe is. And we always say that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And we go very far and we go very deep as a community, and we have created this community of self-seekers through Ride Tribe. I think Sheikh Abdullah also expressed it very accurately that this community didn't quite exist before, and that's really what entrepreneurship is, creating a market. And that's what happened with Ride Tribe. So challenges, I think it was introducing something new and inviting people to try something different, come out of their comfort zone. But the moment they did, the market was definitely created. And since then, so many other spaces have opened up that are quite similar. Now, for me, the thing is there that people miss the point when it comes to entrepreneurship, because they've seen that these spaces are working and that they're doing well. And so as much as I enjoy healthy competition and as much as I see that as a nod to our success, I think that there's other gaps that this ecosystem has now created that they've completely missed because they're looking at one direction, which is what we've already done. So where else can you possibly look now? And that's limitless. So for people that are looking to start something off or embark on this kind of journey of entrepreneurship, I'd say instead of replicating and slightly adjusting something, explore that ecosystem or that new market and see what really has not been tapped into. It could be a complementary service. And then that way we're just expanding the community and the ecosystem and that market.
So how would you recommend to, let's say, one of these young people who's interested in starting a business, but doesn't really have the right idea or it hasn't really called to them yet? How would you suggest they go about brainstorming ideas or finding the right idea to start a business?
So I think I'll develop on from what I just said. I'd say there's two approaches. It's either exploring it in a purely kind of professional way where you're literally just studying the market and looking for actual gaps and then offering something there. Or go with and we'll go back to the first point that we that was shown on the screen, which is go to your intention. Really dig within and dig deep and find what there's usually a thread and a consistency in everything that you do that will really be the key to whatever it is your passion or your calling or your dream or destiny might be. So if you notice, each and every single one of us mentioned a story from when we were younger that has some kind of thread that's connected to what we do today. So I'd say start there, and then if you can't figure that out, study some market that you're interested in. So for me, it was moisturizing and health and offering a service that made people feel better about themselves. For Karam, it was education, and a community in that kind of sense with the books and development. And with Sheikh Abdullah, it was offering competitive prices, right, to the sweets that you're offering people in your family. And that's what you're doing right now. You're buying products at wholesale and offering a competitive price that is just unparalleled. So find that thread, that consistency that exists in everything that you've ever done, and that's where you should look, because that's where your intention is.
I want to throw it over to you, Sheikh Abdullah. Why do you think that it's important for young people to start to think about the skills that you develop of being an entrepreneur? Well, do you think it's important, first of all, as a young person to start thinking like an entrepreneur?
I do think it's important. However, it's not the only thing. Any country needs a balance. So it doesn't mean that if you're from a 9-to-5 job, that's wrong. No, you can also do a lot doing that, especially here in Qatar, because there's many stable jobs. But Qatar is a very new market on entrepreneurs, especially within the local community, the Qataris. Most Qataris have learned that once they are done with university or college, they look into ministry positions within the government and not starting something new. And that's fine. There always needs to be a balance, but we still need more within the entrepreneurship. We still need more to enter that field. My background personally, I don't come from a family that was into business at all. So all of my family was in the military, which is a governmental job. So pursuing that goal is totally different. And I did face lots of challenges within the society for the first 2 years. But then when I proved myself right, that I proved myself that I can stand on my feet and I don't need the support of a consistent salary from the government, and that I can do it by myself, the ideas changed. And what's good also for the country is that we're bringing in new money. We're not recycling the money that is already here, which consists of more than 80% of the market, which is the energy and gas and petrol. So we're bringing money from outside of Qatar.
Karim, can you answer sort of the same question? Why do you think it's important in your mind, or do you think it's important for young people to start to think in an entrepreneurial way?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to, adding to what Sheikh Abdullah mentioned now, to define a little bit of entrepreneurial thinking, because whether you have 9-to-5 job or you're just by yourself starting up a new business with a completely, let's say, quote unquote, crazy idea, it doesn't matter, because entrepreneurial thinking is basically being like an artist, being resilient and being very curious, asking questions at every single point. Even if you are very comfortable, if you have been provided by a very comfortable future, still questioning everything and being curious, I think, is what I would define of being entrepreneurial. Sometimes being agile definitely is one of it. So even if you prefer to have that, let's say, given 9-to-5 job, any type of work, you can still define it with your own way. I like to call entrepreneurs as artists, because what we call thinking outside the box, when everything is going to the right, trying to see what's on the left. And all of these are actually triggers of curiosity. Asking always why, trying, learning from it, trying something new. I also like to refer to what Juju said. Having that core intention is very important. Knowing why you do something is much more important than having a great idea. There are so many examples with amazing ideas that if they would told in a very consistent and organic story would have been a big success story, whereas because they were not, let's say, perceived as a storytelling or as kind of like, okay, this is what we do, this is our market, this is our strategy, this is how we did our research, let's go into business. That there are much more, let's say, emotional parts in entrepreneurial thinking. So to wrap it up, whether it's your own business, if you have this idea, or whether you are working professionally, I think entrepreneurial thinking, being resilient at times, being agile at times, thinking like an artist is quite very important. And that will only make you become the best version of yourself.
Did you want to add something to that?
I just love that, thinking like an artist. You know, I think that we take away the creative side of business, and creating a business is creativity, and it's actually very creative and very artistic, and it's an expression of ourselves. So for me, it is art, and I refer to
For sure, yeah.
my projects that I mentioned that was mentioned in the screen as my children, because for me it's a creative force that is actually moving through me, and I think we're all created by, we are created by the greatest creator of all time to create. Whether it's children, whether it's ideas, communities, we have a gift to create, and business is part of that. So I love that point. And also we're not, we already have that. It's embedded, it's in our DNA. We already have that in each of our cells. We're born with it. So one of my teachers says something that I really love, that we're not here to like find our purpose, but rather we're already created with purpose. It's already the seed essence of who we are, and that is something that is there on purpose, for a purpose. So it's about really just getting to the seed and the core of who you are, rather than trying to find something. It's already there, and it's just, I think, revealing it, uncovering it, rather than anything else,
Very, very quickly, I actually have an interesting example to that. I had a period in my life, I was living in New York, and that was during bachelor's, during undergrad, and a little after. And right at that time, I was so keen to start up a new business, and I saw this opportunity, not an opportunity, I saw this business called Hale and Hearty Soups. They're just serving at a you know it, right? It's a beautiful concept. I was completely in love with it. There are more than 50 different soups, and it's only soups. I love that idea, and I started a soup company in Turkey, because I thought it's an amazing opportunity. But that was, who am I being to serve soups? I have no real passion to it. I just saw an opportunity. Well, the business wasn't a failure. We succeeded in our own way, and we actually got acquired by another investor at the end. So it was not a failure, but it wouldn't be something I would like to chase for in my future, because I wasn't really, it's not resonating with me. I'm the soup person, that's not my passion. So I had to dig a bit deeper in what I really like in my own essence, what can I manifest from it. And I realized, after all, it's all about communities, and that led me to co-working spaces. It could lead me to some other thing, again, with community-centric approach later on. But yeah, it's very important to find your core rooted essence in that sense.
Definitely.
I
I mean,
love-
I think that the Karim soup idea has
Love
has a
it.
ring to it. So
Isn't it amazing?
it's
Like, that's
amazing.
what I was gonna say.
I want to
No,
try. it.
no, it worked, to be honest.
I would love the recipes and love to explore that with you because you know I also
Absolutely.
do the F&B consultancy. We create concepts for people, and that is just something that works perfectly. I
Our
think.
name
So
was-
if you don't want it, I'll take it.
Absolutely. Our name was So Up. So it's soup, but So Up with some carrot
And so this
cartoons
is where
and
you went
broccolis
wrong.
and
This is where
You said something, Karim, about starting a business and then you were acquired by someone else. And you mentioned that you didn't continue. It's not always the goal, it's not always the plan to stay there forever. You can set it up and then hand it over and then move on. So it's not, and that's still successful. So it's not about actually what you created. خلاص, يعني it's successful. You executed the idea and then it moved on. So that's also yeah.
and it's created a community around it. So there you go. I actually achieved that let's say goal, which I enjoy. But if it was something a bit more related to my deep core, let's say, passion, why would I ever leave something that's progressing in that sense? So yeah.
I have a lot more questions to ask you guys, but we have to hand it over to the jurors. And we are going to start with, are we going here physically or are we going virtually yet? And I'll ask all of you guys, by the way, when the jurors are asking virtual questions, you'll see them on the monitor here. If you could just look at that camera there when you're responding to their questions, that would be great. So we're going to go to a question from the venue here physically first. So if we can go to... Oh, you're going to do it without the microphone? Okay, you want to... We hear... Actually, let's do it with the mic because we're tuning in some jurors. Yeah. But I like the courage with no mic, though. I'll give you props for that.
Hello, my name is Abdurrahman Mahi. I'm like a Badr juror. I am really
Where are you
inspired
from? How old are you?
Oh, okay. I'm from Egypt and I'm 24 years old. I was really inspired by all of your stories. I think they're very interesting. I just wanted to ask you guys a question because I'm kind of also, or I'm in kind of a phase where I want to do my own startup, but I saw something that kind of stirred me away from it. Like the example of Skep Cash, if you heard of them, like they started and then they created the space, like they created the need for like not having or virtual payment method, and then once like the market opened up that they created in Qatar, like Apple Pay and all of these companies came and they like overtook that part. So how do you protect your business from international, the international market space, especially in a small space like Qatar? And also, second general question of that as well. Sheikh Abdullah brought up the idea that business doesn't have to always open up, it doesn't have to be a service that always stays. I believe also it could be to disrupt the market space or the space. So how do you feel about businesses as a disruptive market or as a disruptive of the existing reality that we live in? Thank you.
Okay, which one of you guys want to tackle the first question first? Karim or
the first question, because I do have something in common with that. I work with international brands, and today we have free zones opening up here in Qatar, and the international brands are coming here in Qatar. But there's always one thing that this thing you cannot stop. But there's always one thing that you have to take a step ahead, is that if I am from Qatar, they don't share the same traditions. They don't share the same knowledge that I know within the country. And they go around and then they come back to us. So this has happened with me a lot. We've had many businesses that were B2B and they changed to B2C, and that's easier for them. But when they changed to B2C, the prices dropped. Today, one of the biggest companies that are in B2C that disrupted the whole market in the GCC and also globally, I just recently found out that they signed a contract with us that we have to service their products. So we're still getting in their customers within our doors. So it's just being creative and finding a way that you differ yourself from the other businesses. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Of course.
Quickly? I agree 100%. That's actually a quite valid example. Another, let's say, approach would be that probably half, maybe more of the startups around the globe start to have an exit at one point. They're not really trying to be in the business for the next, let's say, 35, 40 years at one point or another. And if you look at these big tech companies, they actually have huge divisions, R&D departments, innovation labs, who are mainly scouting so many startups around the globe every year, acquiring more than 100. I think Google's, Apple's, Microsoft's, these companies are acquiring more than 100, 150 startups every year because the disruption, if anyone wants to see, okay, what's next, what's coming up in technology and innovation, they will always go to startups. They will not look at the corporations. The corporations, though, for them to survive, for them to keep innovating and keep competitive, they have to acquire those solutions. So that could be your actual strategy to start up your business. But for that, usually you have to bother the corporate a little bit. You know, you have to coexist in the same market. You have to chase for the market share a little bit, at a point where they are convinced, okay, these guys already have a traction and they're doing all right, with the example like of Skip Cash and Apple Pay, then they're like, so basically you're like bothering them a little bit to say, hey, I'm here and I am a good solution. I can compete with you. And that's where they start considering to acquire you, which could be sometimes millions of words of an exit. So that's not a bad thing, to be honest.
But don't stop.
Don't stop. Yeah.
Continue.
That's good advice. We're not going to answer your second question because one is enough, I think, for you. We're going to bring it over to...
It was a good question. There's so much to add to that as well, but I think that
I think we're
getting
going to go
prompts.
We're going to actually go to the Zoom feed right now. So we can look over to that monitor. And the juror that is asking the question, please say your name, where you're from, and your question.
Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Yeah? All good? Yeah, my name is Lafan Hassan. I'm a juror in Badr. And I'm originally Palestinian, but was born and raised in Qatar, which was amazing. But my question is that when it comes to entrepreneurship, of course, when you have a passion, it's definitely a driving factor. And I'm all about being positive, but sometimes I feel when it comes to the logistics, so when you come to talk about like financial means and financial capacities, I wanted to ask you, so how important in the process or the journey of entrepreneurship, how important is that financial means, or how important is that capital? And if someone doesn't have the accessibility to a good amount of financial means or a good financial capital, how would one gain that and kind of go against the odds?
That's a great question. Did you want to point that to anyone specific, or you want to ask the group?
It's an open question, so whoever wants to answer, I'm open to it.
Okay. Juge?
You should take them.
Okay. So yeah, that is a great question. Thanks for asking it. And I think that's what usually blocks people from taking the first step, really. I'd say that for each person that importance will differ, for sure. But there are so many different approaches. So whether it is raising that capital, crowdfunding, loans. There's so many initiatives here, since you're here, that support that sort of thing. So I think it's understanding what your needs are as a business, and really going from there. There's no one size fits all for this one. The importance really varies, and for some businesses, you might be able to start raising and generating as you go and allow it to grow organically. So yeah, It really depends with this one. I don't know if there's something else that you would say that's a bit different.
Well, no business would be established without an investment, and if you want to keep, let's say, growing, obviously you will need to keep investing, but that's not you, that's the business. And depending on what your product service is, if you are, say, working in artificial intelligence, obviously you may want to raise a bit more capital than some other businesses. It is definitely a very, very important factor, I guess, capital in general. But if you don't have capital whatsoever, there are ways to find it. It starts from yourself. You know, it's this terminology they tend to use always, triple F, friends, family, and fools. That's usually how it starts with. But, you know, there are different journey, and among the journey, there are different steps that you may need further capital, as long as you have a tangible solution to a tangible problem, a good progress on your community building, on creating that market. I think you will have a good chance to raise your capital. And one very quick tip is usually people think that investors choose which startups to invest in. I like to reverse engineer that. I think it's very important for the startups to choose their investors who they are partnering up with. That's a very, very important. As long as your startup is working and it's an investable startup, there will be a lot of candidates to invest in your startup.
I would also add on to this that if it depends on the product, but very shortly is that yourself is the most valuable asset. And if the business is around something that only you can deliver or you're different, you can just sell the idea without even having, and this also relates to myself, that's why I'm saying it, that you can just sell the idea without having anything with you.
Did you have a particular idea in mind that you wanted to share with us? Am I putting you on the spot right now?
No, you're not putting me on the spot at all, actually.
Okay.
I currently don't have any plans for any entrepreneurial journeys to embark on. But to be fair, I've actually just graduated from university, and it's the first time I'm doing some jobs. You know, have an internship going, and I'm doing little things on the sides, like a digital media consultancy kind of thing. And while I was doing that, I'm like, that would be pretty cool to embark on. And I was also like, you know what, it's nice to work for someone and to learn from other people, but it'd be really nice to kind of be in that position where I'm teaching others, kind of putting my passion on the table, inspiring people, having something that's my own. So it's definitely something that I feel like once I get some experience and know the market that I want to be in the most, then I'll definitely take that first step.
And don't share your ideas without an NDA. So keep your ideas to yourself.
You.
Yeah, I was trying to sneak it out of you there.
Also call me.
Juju's waiting for your call. All right, so the next question, we're going to go back to Zoom. I know we have a couple more questions. I didn't forget about you guys over here. We're going to go back to Zoom for the next question. What's going on?
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Hasnan Sajjad from Pakistan, and I'm a social activist, and I don't have any experience on entrepreneurship, and from your conversation I got much knowledge about entrepreneurship. So I have some question that I want to ask in the points. What inspired you to develop your idea, and how have your priorities changed from when you first started? And knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently when you were first starting out? And the main question is that how did you establish your culture through entrepreneurship?
Say the last question again. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
How did you establish your culture through entrepreneurship?
Okay. So you guys, I think, already touched on a few of those questions that he mentioned. What I thought was really interesting was the question of if you guys had to start all over again. If you guys had to start all over again, would you change anything about the journey you took with your businesses? If there is something, what would that be?
Very good question. I don't know who should say.
I would love to hear from both of you, and I'll share my story as well.
Do you have something to say now?
I personally would, straightforward.
Everything.
Well, no, I mean, one thing that's always fixed is definitely why we do it. It's very, very important.
Exactly.
The story can change here and there. You know, we can adapt our daily, let's say, agendas or daily tasks to the norms of the market, or you know, one thing happens, a lot of things change. So you have to be agile. Looking retrospect, I would definitely do a couple of things differently, but that's experience, and that's one of the, in my opinion, most rewarding things. You learn along the way, whether it's successful or a failure. And I've had both of them. And every single thing you do, of course, there are alternatives, and we learn from them.
Sorry, Sheikh Abdullah, sorry to cut you off. Did you want to say something about failure, though, in specific, the concept of failure and being an entrepreneur, and how to deal with that?
Just being, they sometimes say ignorance is a bliss. We have a different version of it in Turkish as well. I really like that. Sometimes you just have to be very brave and keep trying. J.K. Rowling, I guess, got refused 27 times of different 27 publishing companies before she got it signed. Michael Jordan sometimes says, people talk about the 200 game winner shots I made. No one talks about the 1,000 I missed. So obviously there will be failures for success, and you have to learn from it. But what's important is to learn as well from the success stories. So today, if we consider what we all three do, a successful startup, and ask, basically, would you do something different? In my opinion, I would.
Sheikh Abdullah, sorry.
Yeah, I've been through the learning curve, and I've sat with many people that are before me in this market, not here in Qatar, internationally, manufacturer owners and brand owners, and they all gave me advice. I didn't take that advice, and I would say that if I took that advice, I would have saved myself a lot. Like, one of the advices was that never open a shop with my concept within a mall, and always start big. I didn't do that. I started small, and it took me a while until I grew. Today we are 4 branches in Qatar, and with a 5th branch. But when I started with one branch, it wasn't with what I didn't take that advice at all. And the second shop was with that advice, and I saw a total difference. And it was a game changer for me.
Game changer.
Yes.
Juju?
Yeah, I think that would I do something differently? Yes, there's so much that I would do differently, but I could only possibly have known that going through the learning curve. So that's what gives me my edge now and puts me, I guess, in my game ahead of anyone else that's maybe just starting up now, because they have not been through the learning curve that I have. So there is, I guess, so much that I would have done differently, but also not, because it has brought me to the place that I am now to create something moving forward. So that is, it's quite a difficult question to answer, I'd say. So I guess no, if I'm gonna wrap that up, would I do anything differently? No, because I needed to know everything that I do know now. And then now if I was to do something from scratch, it would be completely different.
I think that was a very good point. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for the question. We're going to move it over to the venue now. Raise your hands real high so I know who really wants to ask a question. The juror right here in blue. Yes. You had your hand raised the highest, so I feel like... oh, you got long arms, okay. So do I.
Hello. Is this working? Oh, okay. Hello, my name is Asil Ahmed. I'm 18 and I'm Sudanese. Time is precious, so I'm going to keep it short. I only got 2 questions, okay? Firstly, I wanted to refer to what Juju talked about earlier about finding that embedded seed of purpose and the thread of connecting certain passions you have. I believe personally for me that I have a lot of interests in a lot of different fields. And I wrote down here in the sense of like, how do you really connect those dots within the thread of interests that I might have? And second question is for the overall group, and it's if you could describe your experience as an entrepreneur in 3 simple words, what would they be? And yeah.
Nice question. I like how you preface the whole thing. It's like, I only have 2 questions. Most people only have 1. Slick, I like your style. And yeah, Juju.
Okay, so the first point, which is the purpose one, which I love to do purpose work with people. So there's a lot, you were saying that you have a lot of different passions and a lot of different interests. So the way you described it was that there's a thread that connects these passions and interests, but there's a thread that is within all these passions and interests. And it's not necessarily linking them, but there's something that is consistent. There's a consistency between them all. So if you want to share, then I'd be glad to maybe just... I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The mic is coming. 1 second.
But it's good that you know what they are, because
Yeah,
sometimes...
it's a start. It took
It
a
is.
while.
It's a huge start.
But I think just to quickly preface, I was lost for a really long time in what I wanted to do and what I wanted to study. And I think the biggest piece of advice is just to get out there. And just look into anything, do courses, be part of anything. Just try to find it. But back to what I'm interested in. If I had to give like 3 specific ones that I have most interest in, it would be marketing, specifically digital marketing, psychology, and film.
I love that.
Yeah, it's nice spice. I like
You know, that's what I did.
Really?
Yeah, marketing, psychology, and film.
Really?
On point.
No way. That's...
No coincidences. So I would say those are, they're pointing you towards a like a career path, but I would say dig even deeper and understand what the feeling is that you get from that, from those 3 things, what the actual interest, and this takes like deep self-work, because it's really getting honest and real with yourself. There's something that connects those 3. And if you just find that thread, then that's where your purpose and your destiny is.
Great.
And if you want to go deeper, then we can do that in Rai Tribe or Nia Yoga. Yeah.
And keep doing what you love doing. It will
come through.
It will come.
Yeah.
Well,
So for me, because I had this, I was in the same 3 kind of interests and fields, I think it's stepping into it. And I love this one actually. And this kind of connects to what he was saying on that screen, that you can't possibly know until you take those first steps. So you know, have you ever watched the Wizard of Oz? Yeah, and you know how when Dorothy and they're all kind of skipping on that yellow brick road and that path is not really there at first, and the more she steps, the more the road starts to come through. For me, that's what happened, and I think that's what usually happens, is that you can't possibly see the whole picture, and if you can see the whole picture, you're not dreaming big enough. So you kind of take the step, and another path and another brick will come through, and that's what happened. So for me, it was film, psychology, and marketing, and I don't really do. I do a little bit of marketing. I do marketing now, but not so much film anymore, and psychology is embedded in the work that I do. Working in a clinical setting taught me that I did not, as a psychologist, taught me that I did not want to do that, and that I wanted to explore the lifestyle element of it and still work with people's minds and moods and all of that. You know, it's chemistry, it's neurotransmitters, it's hormones that we're releasing and everything that we do, opening up the mind. So I'm offering psychological therapy in a different setting. And with film, I guess it's the artistry side of things, and with marketing, it's all connected. So it's basically go and try, exactly as you're saying, and do those courses and explore and explore and explore, and your truth will reveal itself to you. Can I say one more thing and then I'm done?
Yeah.
Okay. And then one other thing that I really love is one of my teachers also says that we're not the new version of us. We're not the old version of us turning into the new. You know, you're not this other version of you that's kind of becoming something that you never were. You're always this version of you, unbecoming everything that you're not. So continue to step in your interests, and everything else that is not will fall off.
I think that's a beautiful way to close out the session today. Thank you guys so much. Follow the yellow brick road, by the way.
Follow the yellow brick road?
Follow the yellow brick road. I think it's a beautiful way. Thank you, Game Changers, all for being here. I don't know if you guys can hang out afterwards outside, but guys, jurors, if you could do me a favor, we need to exit this room as soon as possible. So please give it up to the Game Changers.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys at the next Ajyal Talks.